few things are as worth devoting energy to as Bitcoin mining. What the mining process does, it achieves consensus so that we can agree on this monetary system without having to use force. The consensus mechanism in fiat currencies, of which the dollar is the dominant one in the world right now, is war, which is way more wasteful than Bitcoin. A failure to understand proof of work is a failure to understand Bitcoin, and it's a failure to understand what this is all about. It's all about the costliness of producing a block. You need to connect that to something in real physical reality that is outside of the blockchain. You can't have that within the computer system itself, because then there's nothing of value coming into the system. Like in Bitcoin, that miner had to pay for his electricity with real world resources had to be sacrificed in order to secure the system. And furthermore, Bitcoin mining is done mostly by renewables. Miners are incentivized to use cheap energy sources, and not artificially cheap ones, but really cheap ones. And of course, fully functioning renewables that's the cheapest source of energy there is. The problem with the renewables is that they're not very stable. Sometimes the wind does not blow and the sun does not shine, then they don't work as well. And sometimes they overproduce. And if you connect a Bitcoin mining rig to a renewable, like a wind farm or a solar farm, and that farm produces too much electricity, you can always plug the miner, and it will provide the owner of the solar farm or wind farm to monetize something that would have been thrown away otherwise. So it gives energy producers an incentive to switch to renewables, because it makes renewables work better. But Bitcoin doesn't even need a very speedy internet connection. It just needs to send 2.5 megabytes of data every 10 minutes. If you have that kind of bandwidth, you can put the power plant wherever. Yeah, you could put it anywhere on Earth. So it removes the need for power plants to be close to a human settlement. And if you think a bit further ahead, so that you don't think that the mining rig is a suspension mechanism for when they overproduce, but the other way around. If you have the mining rig up at all times, and then you just turn the mining rig off when the human settlement needs more energy, that's an even better scenario for the energy producers. So I think this is inevitably going to change energy markets in the future. It will make those markets a lot less wasteful. Like the burning of natural gas, for instance, like that could be connected to a mining rig. We wouldn't have to waste it. People don't see the alternative cost. There are so many misconceptions about Bitcoin, how Bitcoin is somehow bad for the environment. Bitcoin is literally the only solution to any environmental problem the Earth has ever had. Because it fixes humans, and it fixes our incentives, it fixes everything. And furthermore, a Bitcoin incentivizes users to save and store for the future. Fiat currencies, which are inflationary and need to be more and more inflationary over time, they incentivize people to overconsume. A criminal organization such as a state does not benefit from teaching people how to realize that they're criminals. Like if you deep dive deep enough and you grasp these things from what they truly are at their core, there's no way that big government or government at all is a good idea. Like you realize that proper economic thinking leads you to voluntarism or consentism or anarcho-capitalism or libertarianism, whatever word you prefer. When you really think about it, it's kind of simple. Voluntary interactions with consent between people are better for both parties than violent ones, where you point a gun and say you have to pay tax. Doing things voluntarily is a better way to function for human beings. And it's not that hard to wrap your head around when you really start thinking about it. I think a world in which every interaction between human beings is a non-violent one is a very sound goal to have, and it's a proper ethical point of view to realize that voluntary interaction is not only more peaceful, but actually works better than forced interactions between people. This was another rabbit hole I fell down when I started reading the old Austrian authors like Mises and Rothbard and Hoppe. And those books are really worth your time. So if you want to have something to do with your intellect for the for the next couple of years, I highly recommend reading about praxeology and human action. Yeah, Bitcoin forces responsibility upon you because, like, you're in charge of your private keys, and you will need to take responsibility for them in order to secure them. It's a very personal thing, and it teaches you personal responsibility. So you're incentivized to learn more, not only about the technicalities of Bitcoin and how to store them properly, but you're also incentivized to learn more about economics. And that's when you figure out that, like, if there's inflation in the currency, we are incentivized to spend more and more, because when your money loses value over time, you're better off buying stuff with it than saving it, because saving it will not do anything for you. It will give you less and less purchasing power over time. And that's what's so destructive about it. I made more from just owning my house than I did from my salary at my Fiat job. And that's completely weird. It would have been better for me to take out a huge loan and buy another house than to work. Phenomena like these are everywhere. People have to pay like half their yearly salary or more to buy a car in order to commute back and forth to work. It's a complete nonsense, and it's all because of the inflation in the base layer. Yeah, there's untruthfulness in the base layer of society, and you have untruthfulness everywhere else. If you put truth in the base layer and something sound in the base layer, then you get a totally different society. I think of hyper-Bitcoinization as the inverse of hyperinflation, so 1 divided by hyperinflation. So it helps to think of it as the literal opposite of whatever phenomena is going on at the moment. There are many misconceptions about what Bitcoin is and how you, because you decide what Bitcoin is to you. And if you happen to guess correctly which version of Bitcoin is the legitimate one, then you get to reap the benefits. But if you don't, and you choose a shitcoin fork or something instead, you don't get to reap the same benefits. But at the end of the day, it's the user who decides if Bitcoin is good enough for them, if they believe it or not. So it's in everyone's best interest for such a thing to never happen. Like I said before, it's just an agreement between people on a fixed set of rules. Should those rules change somehow, then you don't have to agree with them anymore. and Bitcoiners won't. They will agree with the rules that work. Bitcoin is completely voluntary. Everything in it is voluntary. No one is forcing you to use it. And no one is forcing you to do anything in it. It's a completely free market thing. It's not coercive. It's rules without rulers. It can't be inflated. It's equal to every user. No one gets to abuse it. And Bitcoin provides us with a tool for freedom. When you're on Bitcoin, you can do anything with your life, and you don't really have to listen to what other people tell you as much as you do when you're stuck in fiat land and just running around in your hamster's wheel all day.